My name is Ava Mitchell. I'm 25 years old, and I learned very early that in my mother's world, love was something you had to compete for. Not earn, not deserve, compete. The first time I understood that, I was 8. It was a Friday night, and I had been waiting all week to show my mom the drawing I made at school. It wasn't anything special, just a house, a tree, and 3 stick figures holding hands. But in my mind, it was perfect. The kind of perfect only a child can believe in. I sat on the couch, legs swinging, holding the paper carefully so it wouldn't wrinkle. I kept looking at the clock. 6:12 p.m., then 6:47, then 7:30. She said she'd be home by 6. By 8:05, I heard the front door open. I ran to her with the drawing. "Mom, look what I made." She didn't even look down. Behind her was a man I had never seen before. Tall, wearing a leather jacket, smelling like cologne and something sharper I didn't recognize back then. "Ava, not now," she said, brushing past me. "Go to your room." That was it, no glance. No smile, no "I'll look later." Just not now. I stood there in the hallway, still holding the drawing, listening to them laugh in the kitchen like I didn't exist. That night, I taped the paper to my wall anyway, not because she saw it, but because I needed to believe someone would. By the time I was 12, "not now" had become a permanent answer. Different man, same pattern. They came into our lives fast, stayed just long enough to rearrange everything, then disappeared like they were never there. But every time they left, my mother didn't just lose them. She lost pieces of herself, and somehow, I was always the one expected to understand. "Ava, you're strong. Ava, you're mature for your age. Ava, don't make this harder than it already is." What that really meant was simple. Don't ask for attention. Don't ask for time. Don't ask to matter. So I stopped asking. At 15, I learned how to cook full meals. At 16, I got my first job at a small grocery store 2 blocks away. I stocked shelves, cleaned aisles, and memorized the schedules of strangers better than my own family. At 17, I was paying for half the groceries at home, not because anyone told me to. Because if I didn't, we didn't eat properly. My mother worked sometimes. She had phases. New job, new energy, new promises. Then something would go wrong, a rude manager, long hours, too much stress, and suddenly she'd quit. And just like that, everything shifted again. Bills stacked up. Food got tighter, and I stepped in. Not as a daughter, as a solution. I told myself it was temporary. That one day, things would settle. That one day, she'd look at me and say, "You don't have to carry this anymore." But that day never came. Instead, something else did. His name was Daniel Reeves. I was 19 when she met him. I remember the first night clearly. She came home smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. Not tired smiling, not forced smiling, real. "There's someone I want you to meet," she said. He walked in behind her like he already belonged there. Clean cut, calm, confident, the kind of man who didn't raise his voice because he didn't need to. "Nice to meet you, Ava," he said, offering his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, controlled, measured. Everything about him felt intentional. At first, I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe this one would stay. Maybe this one would be good. And for a while, it almost felt like I was right. Daniel didn't yell, didn't drink, didn't slam doors or disappear for days. He brought groceries sometimes, fixed things around the house, paid for dinner once in a while. My mother changed around him. She dressed better, cooked more, smiled more. She looked lighter, and I wanted that for her. I really did. So I stayed quiet, stayed helpful, stayed out of the way, but the shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. It started small. It always does. One evening, I came home from work and sat down at the dinner table. There were only 2 plates. I paused. "Did you already eat?" I asked. My mother hesitated. Daniel answered, "We thought you'd be late." I looked at the clock. 7:05 p.m. My shift ended at 6:30, same as always. "I'm not late," I said softly. He smiled, not kindly, just politely. "Well, now you know to text." I nodded, even though I had never needed permission to come home before. A week later, it was the TV. I was watching a show I followed for months when Daniel walked in, picked up the remote, and changed the channel without asking. Football. "Hey, I was watching that," I said. He glanced at me. "House rules," he said calmly. "We watch the game on Sundays." I looked at my mother. She avoided my eyes. That was the first time I felt it, not anger, not sadness, something colder. Like a quiet understanding settling in. This wasn't my home anymore. I just hadn't been told yet. By 21, Daniel wasn't visiting. He was living there. His clothes in the closet, his shoes by the door, his opinions in every room. And slowly, I started disappearing. Family dinners became their dinners. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Plans were made without including me. Photos were taken without calling me over. I wasn't pushed out. I was erased. Carefully, quietly, completely. One night I overheard them talking in the kitchen. "She's always here," Daniel said. My mother sighed. "She lives here." "For now," he replied. There was a pause, then the words that changed everything. "She's holding you back, Jen." I stopped breathing. I waited for her to defend me, to laugh it off, to say, "That's my daughter." Instead, she said quietly, "I know." That was the moment something inside me shifted, not broke, shifted. Like a light turning off in a room I didn't realize I was still standing in. After that, I stopped trying, stopped waiting, stopped hoping. I still worked, still paid my share, still helped where needed, but emotionally, I stepped back, watched, listened, learned, because deep down I knew something was coming, and this time I wouldn't be unprepared. By the time I turned 22, the shift was complete. Daniel didn't just live in the house anymore. He ran it. Not loudly, not aggressively. That would have been easier to fight. No, Daniel controlled things in a way that made you question yourself first. Like maybe you were the problem. It started with small rules, shoes off at the door, no food in the living room. Lights out by midnight if you weren't contributing enough. That last one was new. I worked full-time, paid part of the rent, covered groceries when my mom fell short. But somehow I still wasn't contributing enough. One night I came home late from work, double shift. Feet aching, head pounding, just wanting to shower and sleep. I flipped the kitchen light on. Nothing, tried again, still nothing. Daniel's voice came from the dark living room. "Electricity doesn't stay on for free." I froze. "What does that mean?" He stood up slowly, walking toward me like he had all the time in the world. "It means," he said calmly, "if you're going to act like a guest, you can live like one." I stared at him. "I pay here." He tilted his head slightly. "Not enough." I looked at my mother. She was sitting on the couch, arms folded, eyes fixed on the TV that wasn't even on. "Mom," I said. She didn't look at me. "Ava, just don't start tonight." Don't start, like I was the problem. Like asking why my own house was dark was starting something. That night, I showered in cold water and went to bed without saying another word. Not because I agreed, but because I was beginning to understand something important. Fighting him wouldn't change anything. Because I wasn't just fighting him. I was fighting her choice, and she had already made it. After that, things escalated. Quietly, carefully, groceries I bought would go missing. My laundry would be moved mid-cycle. My things, little things, would disappear. A charger, a jacket. My headphones, when I asked, Daniel would shrug. "Maybe you lost them." And my mother? "She's been forgetful lately, Ava. Don't accuse people." People, not him. People. I started keeping my important stuff locked in a suitcase. In my own room. In the house I helped pay for. That's when it hit me fully. I wasn't living there anymore. I was staying there. And there's a difference. Then came the dinners. They used to wait for me, even if it was late, even if it was simple. Now, dinner happened when Daniel was hungry. If I wasn't there, I missed it. If I came in while they were eating, no one offered a plate. Just silence. Forks, plates, TV noise, like I was invisible. One night I decided not to accept it. I sat down anyway. Looked straight at my mother. "Did you make extra?" She hesitated. Daniel answered. "We didn't plan for you." I nodded slowly. "I live here." He leaned back in his chair. "For now." There it was again, that phrase, not direct, not official, but always there. Hanging, waiting. Later that night, I knocked on my mom's bedroom door. She opened it halfway. "Yes, can we talk?" She sighed like I had asked for something exhausting. "What is it, Ava?" I swallowed. "I feel like I'm being pushed out." She rubbed her forehead. "You're overthinking." "I'm not," I said quietly. "He turns off lights, hides my things, makes rules. He's trying to create structure," she cut in. "For who?" I asked. "This is my home, too." She looked at me then, really looked. And what I saw in her eyes wasn't confusion. It wasn't guilt. It was something worse, agreement. "You're 22, she said. "Maybe it's time you start thinking about your own place." That hurt more than anything Daniel had done. Because it confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't about rules. This wasn't about structure. This was about making space for him and removing me. After that conversation, I stopped knocking on her door, stopped trying to explain, stopped expecting anything to change. Instead, I started preparing. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly. The way they had erased me, I opened a new savings account. Started moving small amounts of money into it. Nothing noticeable, nothing that would raise questions. I began looking at apartments. Cheap ones, small ones, far enough to feel like distance. Close enough to keep my job. I started taking my important documents to work with me. Birth certificate, social security card, bank papers, anything that mattered. Anything they could use to control me if things got worse. Because by then, I knew something. Something they didn't realize I had figured out yet. Daniel wasn't trying to live with me. He was trying to replace me. And my mother, she wasn't being controlled. She was choosing comfort over confrontation, over me. The final shift happened on a Sunday. Of course it did. Football was on. Daniel's day, his rules. I came home early for once, sat on the couch, didn't say anything, didn't argue, just existed. He muted the TV, slowly turned to look at me. "You got somewhere else you can be?" I met his eyes. "No," he smiled slightly. "That's the problem." My mother laughed, not loud, not cruel, just enough. That was it. That was the moment. Not the insults, not the rules, not even the manipulation. It was that small laugh, that quiet agreement, that confirmation that I was no longer her priority. That night, I packed my first bag. Not everything, just enough. Clothes, essentials, documents, things I could carry without being noticed. I left it in my car, locked, ready. Because I knew now, it wasn't a matter of if I would leave. It was a matter of when they would try to break me first. And this time, I wouldn't wait for permission. The day everything ended, started like nothing special. That's the strange thing about life. The moments that break you don't always arrive with warning. Sometimes they walk in quietly and sit at your table like they belong there. It was a Saturday. I had the day off, which was rare. And for once, I didn't wake up early to avoid them. I stayed in bed a little longer, listened to the quiet, tried to remember what it felt like to feel at home somewhere. Around 10:30, I heard voices in the living room, not just my mom and Daniel. More laughter, plates clinking. Someone said, "This place is nice." I sat up slowly, visitors. No one had told me, of course. I got dressed and walked out. There were 3 people sitting in the living room. A couple, maybe in their 50s, and a younger woman. Daniel stood near the TV like he was hosting something important. My mom was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Proud, polished, happy. Then she saw me, and for a split second, her smile faltered. Not because she was happy to see me. Because I wasn't supposed to be there. "Ava," she said, voice tight, "I didn't know you were home." I nodded. "Yeah, day off." There was an awkward pause. Daniel stepped in immediately, smooth. Controlled. "This is Ava," he said casually. "Jennifer's daughter." Not my daughter, Jennifer's. The older woman smiled politely. "Oh, we've heard about you." Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. Heard what? I stood there, unsure whether to sit or leave. Then I noticed something. My room door was open, wide open. I walked past them slowly, heart starting to pound, each step heavier than the last, and then I saw it. My room wasn't my room anymore. The bed was made differently. My sheets gone. The closet half empty, my suitcase moved, and sitting on my desk were folded brochures. Property listings. My chest tightened. I turned around slowly, walked back into the living room. Held one of the brochures in my hand. "What is this?" I asked. My mother looked uncomfortable. Daniel didn't. He smiled. "We're making some changes," he said. "What kind of changes?" I asked, even though I already knew. He leaned back slightly, confident. "We're planning to rent out the extra room," he said. "Help with expenses." I stared at him. Then at my mom. "That's my room." Silence. Then my mother finally spoke, soft, careful. "Ava, we thought this might be a good time for you to transition." Transition, like I was a phase. Like I was temporary, like I had always been temporary. "I live here," I said quietly. Daniel exhaled through his nose like I was being difficult. "You stay here," he corrected. "There's a difference." That sentence landed exactly the way he intended. The older couple shifted uncomfortably. The younger woman avoided eye contact. No one spoke. No one stepped in. I looked at my mother one last time, waiting, not for everything, just for something. "Say something," I said. She hesitated, looked at Daniel, then back at me. "We talked about this," she said quietly. "You knew this day would come." No, I didn't, but I understood something in that moment. She wasn't confused. She wasn't unsure. She wasn't stuck. She had already chosen. And now she needed me to cooperate. That was the final piece. Not the decision, not the room, not even the humiliation. It was the expectation that I would accept it quietly. Something inside me didn't break. It didn't shatter. It went still, like a switch flipping. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. They all seemed surprised. No argument, no shouting, no tears, just okay. I turned around, walked back to my room, closed the door. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel hurt. I felt clear. I packed everything. Not slowly, not emotionally, efficiently. Clothes. Laptop, documents, essentials, the rest. Didn't matter. Because I finally understood something most people learn too late. When people show you that you don't belong, believe them the first time. It took me less than an hour. When I walked out with my bags, the room went quiet. My mother stood up. "Ava, where are you going?" I looked at her, really looked this time, not as my mother, but as a person. "I'm giving you what you want," I said. Her face shifted. Confusion, fear, regret, all too late. "That's not what It is," I said calmly. Daniel crossed his arms. "Probably for the best." I didn't respond, because for the first time I didn't need to win, didn't need to explain, didn't need them to understand. I walked to the door. My hand paused on the handle, and then I said the only thing that mattered. "Don't call me when this falls apart." And I left. No crying, no looking back, no second chances, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for attention, doesn't beg to be heard, but changes everything, because they thought losing me would make space. They didn't realize I was the only thing holding that space together. And now, they were about to find out what life looks like without me. The first night in my new apartment was quiet. Not the uncomfortable kind, not the heavy, lonely silence I used to feel in that house. This was different. This was peace. It wasn't a perfect place. Small living room, old carpet. Walls thin enough to hear your neighbors if they talked too loud. But it was mine. No one could turn off the lights. No one could move my things. No one could decide if I belonged. I dropped my bags near the door and just stood there for a minute, breathing, letting it settle. Then I did something simple, something small. Something that felt bigger than anything I had ever done before. I locked the door. And for the first time in my life, I knew no one on the other side had the right to open it. That night, I didn't unpack everything. Just the basics: toothbrush, a change of clothes, my laptop. I ordered cheap takeout and sat on the floor to eat it. No table, no noise, no tension, just me. And I realized something quietly, almost like a thought I had been avoiding for years. I wasn't sad. I should have been. I had just left my home, my mother, everything familiar. But instead, I felt lighter. Because what I lost wasn't a home. It was a place where I was slowly disappearing. And now I existed again. The first message came the next morning from my mother. "Where are you?" Simple. Like I had stepped out for groceries and forgotten to come back. I stared at it, didn't respond. 10 minutes later, "Ava, answer me." Then, "This isn't funny." Then, "Please." I put my phone face down and went to work, because that's what I had always done. Kept moving, kept functioning. Even when everything inside me shifted, by the third day, the tone changed. "You can't just leave like that. We need to talk. You're overreacting." Daniel didn't mean it like that. Of course. It wasn't about what happened. It was about how I reacted. It always is. I still didn't answer. Because I finally understood something. Every time I explained myself before, I gave them another chance to rewrite the story. And I was done being rewritten. By the end of the week, Daniel texted me. "Ava, this has gone far enough." I almost laughed. He had thrown me out of my own life, and now I was the one going too far. I blocked him, immediately. No hesitation. That was new. Old me would have responded, defended, explained, but this version of me understood that silence wasn't weakness, it was control, and I wasn't giving that up again. 2 weeks passed. Life started forming a rhythm. Work, home, quiet dinners, evenings where I could sit without feeling watched. I bought a small lamp, a cheap one, but it made the room feel warmer. Then a second-hand chair. Then groceries that were mine, not shared, not taken, not questioned. For the first time, everything I built stayed mine. And slowly, I started becoming someone I didn't recognize. Stronger, calmer, less reactive, not because life was easier, but because I wasn't constantly being drained. Then came the call. I almost didn't answer, unknown number, but something told me to pick up. "Hello, Ava." It was my mother. Her voice was different, not controlled, not defensive, shaken. "I need to talk to you," she said quickly. "Please." I stayed quiet. Then she said something I hadn't heard in years. "I need your help." There it was. Not "I miss you," not "I'm sorry." I need. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes for a second. "What happened?" I asked. She exhaled shakily. "Things are not good." Of course they were. But I didn't interrupt. I let her say it. "Daniel lost his job," she continued. "He's been stressed." Stressed. That word again, the excuse that made everything acceptable. "He's been drinking more," she added quietly. There it was, the truth starting to slip out. "And the rent we're behind." I didn't respond, because I already knew where this was going. "They're talking about eviction," she said, "and I don't know what to do." I opened my eyes, stared at the ceiling. This was the moment. The moment my entire life had prepared me for. The moment where I would normally step in, fix it, carry it, save them, but something had changed, because now I knew the cost, and I knew who paid it, me, always me. "I can't help you," I said calmly. Silence. Then, "What do you mean?" "I mean I can't fix this for you." Her breathing got heavier. "Ava, please, we're your family." Family. Funny how that word only shows up when people need something. "I was your family 2 weeks ago," I said quietly. "Remember?" She didn't answer, because she remembered. She just hadn't expected consequences. "This is different," she whispered. "No," I said. "It's not." And then I said something I had never said before. Something that felt like cutting a chain I had been dragging my whole life. "You made your choice." Her voice broke. "So you're just going to let us lose everything?" I paused. Then answered honestly. "I didn't make you lose it." And that was the truth. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one holding everything together anymore. And without me. Everything was finally showing what it really was. Unstable, broken, and built on someone who was never meant to carry it all. She started crying, saying my name over and over, but I didn't step in. I didn't rush to fix it, didn't promise anything, because silence was finally doing what words never could, teaching them what life feels like without me. And this time, I wasn't going back. After that call, everything changed. Not in my life, in theirs. For a while there was silence. No messages, no calls, and I knew why, because they weren't done yet. People like Daniel don't fall apart all at once. They drag everything down slowly and take others with them. 3 weeks passed. Then I heard the truth. Not from my mother, from someone else. A neighbor I used to know. She recognized me at a grocery store. Smiled the kind of smile people use when they already know something you don't. "I heard about your mom," she said. My stomach tightened. "What happened?" I asked. She lowered her voice. "They got evicted." Just like that, no drama, no warning, no saving it. Gone. The house that replaced me didn't last a month without me. I nodded slowly, not surprised, just confirmed. "Daniel?" I asked. She gave a small laugh, not kind, not cruel, just honest. "He left." Of course he did. That's what men like him do. They stay as long as there's something to take, and when there's nothing left, they disappear. No loyalty, no responsibility. No looking back, exactly the way he entered. "And your mom," she added carefully. I didn't answer right away, because for the first time I didn't know how I felt. "She's staying with a friend, I think," the woman continued. "Not doing too good. Not doing too good. That sentence used to control me, pull me back, make me forget everything, but not anymore. Because now I understood something clearly. Struggling doesn't erase what someone chose. And my mother, she chose him, over me, over stability, over her own life. And now she was living inside that choice. That night I sat in my apartment, same place, same quiet, same peace, but something felt different, not heavy, not sad, final. Like a chapter had closed, without asking for permission. Then my phone rang, her name. I stared at it for a long time because this was it, the last test. The moment that decides whether you've really changed or if you just think you have, I answered. "Ava," her voice was weak, tired, not dramatic, not manipulative, real. "I lost everything," she whispered. I closed my eyes, not because I felt guilty, but because I understood the weight of those words. "Yes," I said quietly. Silence. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Can I come stay with you?" There it was, not "Can we fix this?" Not "I'm sorry." "Can I come stay with you?" The same cycle, just different words. I stood up slowly, walked to the window, looked out at the street below. People walking, cars passing, life moving forward. And for the first time, I didn't feel pulled backward. "I can't do that," I said, her breath caught. "Ava, I have nowhere else to go." I believed her, but belief doesn't mean responsibility. "I'm sorry," I said. "But I can't be that place for you anymore." She started crying, soft at first, then heavier. "I'm your mother," that word again. Mother, a title, not a guarantee. I swallowed. "And I was your daughter," I said quietly. Silence, deep, heavy, unavoidable. "I needed you," I continued, "and you chose someone else." She didn't interrupt, because there was nothing left to argue. "You don't get to come back now," I said. "Not because I hate you," my voice softened, "but because I finally chose me." That was the truth. Not revenge, not anger. Choice, healthy, necessary. Long overdue. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have an answer for her, because it wasn't my job anymore. "You'll figure it out," I said gently. The same way I had to, without anyone saving me. She cried for a few more seconds. Then the line went quiet. And just like that, it was over. No screaming, no dramatic ending, just truth. I sat back down, looked around my apartment. The lamp, the chair, the small kitchen, everything I built on my own, and I realized something powerful. I didn't destroy them. I didn't take anything away. I just stopped being the thing that held their broken life together. And without me, it collapsed, not because I failed them, but because it was never stable to begin with. Weeks later, I heard Daniel had moved on. New place, new woman, same story, and my mother, still trying to rebuild, still struggling. Still learning what accountability feels like. Maybe one day she'll understand. Maybe she won't. But that's not my burden anymore, because I made a different choice. I chose peace. I chose boundaries. I chose to stop being the emergency solution for people who treated me like an option. And most importantly, I chose myself. So let me ask you something. If you were standing where I stood, would you go back and save the people who broke you? Or would you finally walk away and protect the version of yourself they never valued? The end fire.